Hi guys, welcome back to another exciting video, so sit back, relax, and let's get started. Izuku's hyper-analysis. Izuku Midoriya was a special boy. It was always that way. Ever since he was born, it was obvious. This was because of his quirk, at least for the most part. His quirk, hyper-analysis, allowed him to take in, process, and store information at insane speeds. He was fluent in Japanese at 1 month old, and was very aware of his surroundings from the day of his birth. On top of this, he was also extremely sensitive to stimuli. He had a better sense of smell than a dog, had hearing like a bat, and had eyesight that could see at lengths like a telescope. As a young boy, Izuku dedicated most of his time to reading and learning. He used his computer, the library, and every available resource to pursue his goal. The one thing that he developed a passion for in his life was heroes, and he wanted to become the greatest there ever was. The first thing he learned was anatomy. He wanted to master his own body and push it to its full potential. So he studied exercise, diet, sleep, and hydration, and their effects on the body. While he did exercise in his younger years, he waited until age 8 to begin lifting weights in earnest. Until then, he focused on furthering his mind. He read every encyclopedic volume and became an expert on nearly every subject of study. He ate a perfect diet and also instructed his mom on healthy eating habits. On top of everything, he studied heroes, quirks, techniques, and tools. He closely studied every form of martial arts and could master the movements from videos alone. By the time Izuku was ready to apply to Ua High School to train and become a hero, he was a genius with a body stronger and faster than anybody else his age, who had mastered countless martial arts and physical techniques. Plus, he had his amazing senses and reflexes that his quirk provided in the first place. He couldn't make explosions, he couldn't punch hard enough to churn the atmosphere, and he couldn't deactivate others' quirks. But he had, essentially, become the strongest and smartest his human form would allow at that moment. "Hey, Kaken," Izuku called as he approached his childhood rival. "Aiken," Katsuki grinned. "Ready to do this." "I think you know, there's no way I wouldn't be ready," Izuku grinned back. "I bet I'll beat your test score this time," the blonde challenged his green-haired friend. "Well, you'll have to ace the test just to tie me," Izuku shrugged. "Oh, you're that sure you'll ace it?" Katsuki asked. "It's the UA entrance exam, after all." "Of course I am," the greenette nodded. "Are you?" The blonde just scoffed and looked away. "Well?" Katsuki asked as they sat for the briefing on the physical portion of the entrance exam. "Yes, I'm sure I got every question right on the exam," Izuku answered, not even needing him to ask. "Damn it," he sighed. As he stretched, Izuku studied his fellow exam takers. A giant with 6 arms, a blonde boy with a large emitter-looking thing on his belt, a large boy with exhaust pipes coming out of his legs, a cute girl with pink finger pads. He took what he could see and came up with several possible quirks based on everyone's appearances. Then he waited. "Start!" Present Mike's voice rang out. Izuku must have been the only one paying attention, because he bolted out of the gates ahead of everyone else. Pretty quickly he found someone pointers, and he ducked and rolled to get below them. As he expected, there were on-off switches to allow students with non-physical quirks to have a chance as well. He deactivated the bots, then stuck a hand into an opening in one of their shells and tore an arm off at the joint. He took it with him for protection and to use as a weapon, if need be. He continued at an increasing pace, learning the quickest ways to take out the robots as he went. Once he took down his first 3-pointer, he dismantled the rocket launcher and ammunition compartment and retrofitted it to be wearable. It was heavy, but his incredible physique and stamina allowed him to move fairly quickly regardless, as he used the weapon to destroy even more robots. He cycled through the ammunition of 3-pointers by the time the immense 0-pointer reared its head. Izuku noticed that a girl had gotten her leg stuck in a piece of rubble and was in the path of the robot's treads. He quickly realized that, this being a hero school, he would likely get extra points for rescuing her. He grinned as he saw a few structural weak points in the zero-pointer, then fired his three-pointer rockets right into them. The joints of the machine buckled, and it collapsed a safe distance away from the girl. "Hey, you okay?" Izuku asked as he jogged over to the girl and put out his hand. "Why, yeah, thanks," she smiled as she let him help her up. "Geez, how'd you take that thing down?" "I aimed for its weak points," he shrugged, before running off to get more points, shouting at her, "Be more careful." "I can't believe it," Katsuki shouted gleefully. "I beat you, Aiken. Finally." The results of their UA tests had just been mailed to them. Katsuki was the highest scorer in the practical exam, with 87 villain points. Meanwhile, Izuku was in second with 43 villain points and 40 rescue points. "Yeah, but I was still the only person to completely ace the written test." "Kaken," the greenette grinned back. "I don't even care about that. I finally beat you at something school-related." Katsuki smiled widely. "Seriously, you have no idea how good this feels." "Yeah, I've never been their underdog before," Izuku agreed. "Oi, you better lose that cocky attitude," Katsuki said. "You might be smarter, faster, and stronger than me, but my quirk is more than enough for me to compete with you as a hero." "We'll see," Izuku laughed. The students were socializing in the one classroom, and Izuku was taking observations of everyone in the room. The bubbly Ochako Uraraka, who had approached him as soon as she walked in, the uptight and well-mannered Tenya Ida, who Izuku realized was related to Ingenium, the polite proper girl with the ponytail, the silent red and white-haired boy sitting in the back, the collectively rowdy redhead boy, blonde boy, and pink girl. Then the door suddenly opened to reveal a man in a yellow sleeping bag on the floor. Izuku instantly recognized the tired, annoyed face under the shaggy hair protruding from the sleeping bag Eraserhead, the Erasure hero. "It took 8 seconds for you all to shut up," he sighed as he stood up from the sleeping bag. "Kids these days aren't very rational in their time management skills. I'm Shota Aizawa, your homeroom teacher. Put on these P uniforms and head down to the training field. We'll begin our class activities immediately." The students filed out to the locker rooms, then down to the field once they'd changed. There, Aizawa gave the students their assignment: to perform standard fitness tests with assistance from their quirks. At the example set by Katsuki, in which he launched a ball over 800 meters with an explosive throw, the class became excited. This annoyed Aizawa, and he set the stakes more in line with real life and death situations that heroes regularly deal with. The student who received the lowest score across all events would be expelled. Izuku could tell he wasn't being entirely truthful. Because of Izuku's extreme strength and agility, he placed relatively well in every event. He couldn't compete with many of the others whose quirks helped them excel in the events. But he did stand out somewhat in the side-to-side jumps, and placed first in the sit-ups. He ended up placing in 10th, which was pretty impressive considering Ochako, who got 11th, had received an infinity on the ball throw. But the last place student was Minoru Mainta. "The expulsion thing was a lie, by the way," Aizawa grinned evilly. "It was a logical ruse meant to draw out your full effort." "Wah!" Minoru screamed. A few days later, students assembled for their first hero training class with all might, sporting their newly prepared hero outfits. Izuku's outfit was as stylish as it was functional. Dense, flexible yet protective armor was placed under the fabric of his outfit in strategic places. He wore hard-knuckled gloves and steel-soled boots, and a stylish helmet with eye protection, a gas filter, and a HUD designed to his specifications. It took in data from sensors around his suit, and fed him information faster than most people could read it. But it was perfect for him. He also had a utility belt filled with useful goodies that he had requested. The whole ensemble had a green, black, and white color palette. "Whoa, Midoriya," Ochako said with a thumbs up. "Looking good." "You're looking good too," he responded. Then Izuku proceeded to put a hand over Minoru's mouth before the short boy could open it. He'd gotten a good read on him. All Might explained the rules and conditions of the training exercise, and then picked out teams for the students. Izuku was in the second round. He and Hantashiro would be the villains, and they'd be facing Shoto Todoroki, who Izuku recognized by name as Endeavor's son and Tenya Ida. Izuku had noticed, in the initial quirk apprehension test, that Shoto had control over ice despite his father being Endeavor. Also, with the scar, perfectly dual-colored hair, and the fact that he only led with his right side when using his ice, Izuku surmised that it was likely that Shoto could control fire with his left, but refused to use it due to some sort of trauma related to the scar. So, all he needed to worry about was the ice on the right. Poor guys, Katsuki sighed in the bunker where the students were watching from. Half and half and four eyes stand no chance. What makes you say that? Momo Yayurazu asked. Todoroki did get in through recommendation after all. I doubt he has no chance. You haven't seen Aiken in action, Katsuki said. I mean, I get he's strong and fast, and really smart, Ochako said. But is he really that amazing? I mean, what's his quirk even do? We never saw him use it in the quirk apprehension test. I won't say, the blonde shrugged and grinned. Just watch. Begin, All Might announced over the intercom. Before Shoto or Tenya could make their move, Izuku jumped out of the second-story window above them, tethered by Hanta's tape. He took a wire, which had a metal ball attached at each end, and threw it to perfectly wrap around Tenya's legs and trip him. As he swung down on the end of the tape towards Shoto, Izuku saw that he was moving to blast a wave of ice at him. But he shifted his weight and cut the rope to fly right over it, and he barreled into Shoto with the capture tape to eliminate him. Then he leapt to Tenya and captured him with the tape as well. This all took place in 4 seconds. The villain team wins, All Might announced once he snapped out of his awe. What? Shoto gasped, wide-eyed. How? Where'd he? Hey Todoroki, Izuku said, standing above him and holding a hand out. Need a hand? The heterochrome stood up on his own and stared at Izuku, halfway between angry and scared. How did you do that? He asked. Let's go back and see if we can watch the replay, Tenya said. I don't understand what happened either. After watching the replay, there was a request to watch it one more time. And then another. Honestly, All Might himself was astounded beyond anything he'd ever expected to see from a hero course student, let alone an untrained first year. If this child, Izuku Midoriya, would inherit One for All. But All Might wasn't sure of him yet. Sure, he had earned a good bit of rescue points by saving Ochako from the 0-pointer. And sure, he was a polite enough kid. But All Might still hadn't seen that special thing he was looking for. The willingness to sacrifice oneself for another. He knew it was a bit unfair to look for such a thing, because one must first be put in that situation to show their bravery. But he really wanted to be sure. But unless there was someone else that showed it in the meantime. Izuku was at the top of his list by far. Izuku's eyes widened as the giant 0-pointer rose above the fake city's skyscrapers and began moving towards the main mass of exam participants. This is bad, he exclaimed, as he was about to turn and run away. But he saw, out of the corner of his eye, that a girl had fallen and gotten stuck under rubble in front of the robot. It was the brunette girl who had saved him from falling face first earlier that day. Hey, Izuku yelled as he ran towards her. You need help. Why, yeah, sorry, she said with a grimace. I think I twisted my ankle bad. He shoved the concrete off of her leg and helped her up, then started helping her get away. But he noticed that they weren't outrunning the robot because her injury was slowing them down. Hold on, he told her, before picking her up bridal style and using his quirk. His shoes poofed into roller skates, and he moved quickly up the street. Once he got her a safe distance away, he set her down and his shoes turned back to normal. Whoa, is that your quirk? The girl asked. Yeah, it is, Izuku replied. But then the alarm sounded to signal the end of the test. Ah, I couldn't get any more points. How many points did you get? She asked. I got 28. I got 38, Izuku responded. How's your ankle? Hurting. She laughed lightly. So, I never asked earlier, but what is your quirk? Izuku Midoriya. Quirk. Genie. Izuku had all the abilities of a genie. He could shapeshift, alter the weather, create or alter objects temporarily, or bend reality itself, although that had a heavy limit. His strongest ability, by far, was his power to grant wishes. He had the regular limits of a genie, though. He could only grant 3 per person, forever. He couldn't bring people back to life or put people to death. And he couldn't alter someone's free will. Another rule was that he couldn't alter quirks in any way. Izuku smiled up at his home as he arrived. It was a very large, ornate house. It wasn't a mansion, but some people thought it was. Inko had only ever used Izuku's quirk for one wish wealth. Of course, she made the wish mostly because working would make it harder to raise a child, especially as a single parent. But she was obviously also thrilled at the comfort they could live in from that point forward. Welcome home, Izuku, Inko greeted her son as he walked into their house. How did the test go? It went well, he smiled. I think the written portion went well, and the practical exam was actually pretty fun. But apparently Izuku struggled with it. Katsuki Bakugo grinned as he followed his childhood friend inside. He got less than half the points I got. Well, yeah, but it's not like I can make explosions like you. The brunette shrugged. I'm just hearing excuses, the blonde grinned. Both of you, stop bickering, Inko scolded. The Katsuden is almost ready, so don't start playing games yet either. The two of them each entered UA with flying colors. Izuku had gotten 35 rescue points, giving him a grand total of 73 points, which was just shy of Katsuki's 77 villain points. They were first and second place in the entrance exam, much to Izuku's joy and Katsuki's pride and only slight irritation. Before too long, the boys arrived in the halls of UA, officially hero course students. On their first day, their teacher put the class to the test with a rigorous quirk apprehension exam. The first test, after Katsuki was used as an example to showcase the ball throw, was a sprint. So, Izuku manifested a pair of skates to speed across the short distance. What did you do? A dark-haired girl asked, approaching him quickly. Was that your quirk? You can create objects. Oh, only temporarily, Izuku explained, backing away from her. Really, my quirk gives me the powers of a genie. So that includes making objects. Yeah. Ooh, can you grant wishes? A blonde boy asked. Yeah, I can. But only 3 per person, he said. Can you strip the girls here down to their underwear? The short, purple ball-haired boy asked. I wouldn't, Izuku started, but was cut off. Can I wish for something like an unlimited supply of sugary foods? The massive, muscled boy asked. What about me? A floating female-shaped gym uniform asked. Can you make it so I can become visible at will? Well, I don't know. I can't alter quirks, so I'll wish for more dazzling brilliance. A French boy winked. What about a list of the answers to every school assignment I'll ever receive? A dark-haired boy with odd elbows asked. Hey, that's a good one, the blonde from earlier said. Hey, quiet, Aizawa shouted, glaring at the students. If you'd be so kind as to proceed in a timely and rational fashion, then I might still only expel one of you. Why, yes, sir, the class said together. Izuku proceeded to get through the exercises with relative ease, what with his slight reality warping and object making. He finished at place 6 in the class, which was quite respectable if he did say so himself. But, Minoru Mineta, you're expelled, Aizawa said, looking at the boy with a stern expression. You were serious about that? Momo Yaoyorozu asked, shocked. Pro heroes work in high-risk environments. Knowing that his enrollment was at stake, Minta performed poorly and, in my opinion, didn't try. He was outdone by every other student here, including Hagakure, who doesn't have an athletic-related quirk. If he can't even pass that, then it's for the best that he doesn't waste effort chasing a goal he can't reach. But I'll do better. I'll be better, so please, please, Minoru pleaded, tears poking at his eyes. No, you won't. Besides, I was thinking of expelling you just for your comments about your female classmates earlier. So you're lucky you made it this far. Midoriya. The purple-haired boy cried as he ran to Izuku. I wish I couldn't be expelled. I wish there would be a rule that says Aizawa-sensei can't expel me for this. I don't. Aizawa said threateningly, glaring at Izuku with glowing red eyes. Do not even think of doing that. But sensei, it is unfair to do that. It's only the first day. Ochako Uraraka, the girl who Izuku had met at the entrance exam, spoke up. It does seem extreme, Mina agreed, followed by an agreement from Toru. Ugh. This is a troublesome class, the teacher sighed. So irrational. Give him a chance, Izuku said. If he fails to live up to it, then you can expel him. But for now. So irrational, he shook his head. Fine. I'll give the perv this once-in-a-lifetime free pass. Thank you so much, Minoru sobbed. Don't grovel, it gets on my nerves, Aizawa glared at him. Why, yes, sir. Hey, Midori? Mina Ashido, the pink-skinned girl asked. It's Midoriya, he corrected. Could I, in theory, wish for it to rain candy for a day? Yes, you could. Would you grant that? She asked, taking a step closer. And no, I wouldn't, he said, taking a step away. Awuwa, but Midori Shiai, she whined. Think about it. Freecandy. It would be a much smarter wish if you wished for an unlimited supply of candy, rather than for it to rain, Izuku said. Besides, you can only ever have 3 wishes. Would you waste that on candy? Yes, she nodded. Well, I refuse, he stated matter-of-factly. Class, you'll be participating in battle training. Here are the rules, All Might announced. But Sensei, Kyoka Jiro pointed out. You already explained it to us off-page for the sake of brevity. Correct, he laughed. Young Midoriya, young Koda, you'll be the heroes, up against Ida and Yaoyorozu. Okay, Koda, you can talk to animals? Izuku asked his classmate as they stood outside of the villain's base. Why, yes, the large boy replied in a timid, almost childlike voice. Izuku pulled a top hat and wand out from behind his back. He waved the wand around over the hat and tapped the brim a few times before a hawk suddenly climbed out of it, surprising Koji. Can you ask her to do some reconnaissance? The greenette requested. Why, yeah, Koji nodded after shaking himself out of his shock. And? You can talk to this one too? Izuku asked, now pulling a rabbit out of the hat. Yes. What about this one? It shouldn't take too long for them to find our location, Tenya said. Midoriya's quirk is insanely versatile. So is mine, Momo responded as she reinforced the walls even further. Yes, no doubt. We will be victorious in our villainous efforts. Muhahaha. Suddenly, there was a knock asterisk from the thick metal wall. Excuse me, a voice, obviously Izuku's, called from the other side. Pest control here. I heard you had a rodent problem. Our only problem is you and your justice, hero, Tenya exclaimed. Are you sure about that? Momo turned around to make sure the bomb was still where they left it. And she was glad to see that it was indeed untouched. Excuse me, hero, but I'm afraid there's nothing you can do to stop this warhead from destroying the city, she explained confidently. Yes, what she said, Tenya backed her up. Well, if you don't want me to take care of those rodents, then it's your loss, Izuku said. I hope they don't give you too much trouble. Momo felt pressure around her ankle and looked down to see that there was a rabbit, squirrel, and hamster tightening the capture tape around her. Eek! She shouted as she leapt back. Both villains are captured. The hero team wins. All Might announced over the earpieces. That conniving hero, Tenya exclaimed in frustration. Midoriya, what the hell are the rules for your quirk? Denki asked exasperatedly. Like, I don't get it. You could manufacture all those animals out of thin air, carve a little doorway through a foot-thick wall of multiple reinforced steel barriers, but without wishes. I don't get it either, he shrugged with a chuckle. But you can't give me cupcake rain? Mina cried. I could grant that wish, but I won't. But what's the difference between making living, breathing animals and making it rain cupcakes? Hanta asked. Why does one constitute a wish, but one constitutes bending reality? Because Ashita wished for it, Izuku explained. Even if she hadn't, I don't know if I could. My quirk only works with certain things, but I'm never really sure what or why. Oi nerd, Katsuki called Izuku. You want to miss the train or what? Come on. Yeah, I'm coming, Izuku called. See you later, guys. Midorine, Mina called after him. What about my cupcakes? Izuku's hyper-analysis Roman 2. I can't believe how good this food is, Ochako gushed as she ate lunch. Well, it should be no surprise, Izuku shrugged. It was made by Lunch Rush after all. Not only was the food good, but Lunch Rush actually prepared food for Izuku that accommodated his very particular diet. Pretty neat. How did he become a pro-hero anyways? Katsuki asked. All he does is cook. You know, he isn't a fighting hero. He's a support hero, Izuku said. His food can give other heroes slight boosts, or help injured civilians recover quicker. That's useful, Denki said. Hey class rep, does your quirk make time slow down for you? So you have faster reflexes and have more time to think about things. Nope, Izuku shook his head. After Izuku's impressive showing in the battle trial, he was hounded by his classmates about what his quirk was. But All Might quickly halted the interrogation and made it clear that it was Izuku's choice whether he would give up that information. There were plenty of advantages to keeping people in the dark about his quirk. The first relevant benefit would be the sports festival. If nobody knew his quirk, Izuku could always hold it as a wild card and force his opponents to be extra careful around him. Also, in the extremely unlikely event that a student had some shady business going on, he wouldn't want someone untrustworthy to have that information. Although Izuku hadn't told anyone, his classmates continued trying to guess what it was. They had even put a prize pool together for whoever guessed it right. Oh, also he had won the race for class rep in a landslide, with Momo Yayurazu coming in second. Oi extra. Leave Aiken alone before I kill you, Katsuki said very nonchalantly. If he doesn't want to say, he doesn't want to say. But it's driving me nuts, Denki whined. Me too, Mina sighed. Izuku noticed Shoto Todoroki staring at him intensely from across the room. He was likely struggling with the fact that he had been beaten so easily despite the fact that he was supposed to be stronger than most of the rest of his classmates. That ego wasn't unexpected, given who his father was. Suddenly, the alarm started ringing, and a voice called, Security breach, Level 3, Intruder alert. That means an unauthorized person got through the UA barrier, Izuku shouted. He jumped up and ran towards the hallway, able to successfully navigate the sea of panicking students. Once he got there, he looked out of the window, where he had a clear view of the gate, and saw the press being held back by a few staff members. It's just the press, it's not an attack or anything, he realized. Izuku knew he couldn't get everyone's attention at once to let them know about the situation as he stood there against the window, so he climbed up against the windowsill. It was small, and he was barely able to stand there without falling. But it was enough, and he acted quickly. Everybody stop panicking. We're not being invaded. It's only the press, see? He shouted, stopping much of the chaos. Besides, if we were in an emergency, then your disorganized race for the exits would have put us in more danger by creating a traffic jam. Please be more careful in the future. Of course, it was entirely possible that someone had broken in and used the commotion at the front as a cover. After all, it had only recently been made public that All Might was teaching at UA, and the man had plenty of enemies. We picked the right class representative, Ijiro commented as the students returned to the classroom. The way you took charge out there was so manly. Yeah, you rocked, Rikido agreed. It was only logical, Izuku shrugged. Stop talking, Aizawa said as he walked in. Except Midoriya and Yaoyorozu. You two need to assign the other student council members. Once you're done with that, we'll move on to today's hero training course. Once that was all said and done, the students donned their hero costumes and filed onto the bus for their rescue training. All Might and Aizawa were to be joined by another teacher for this training in an unknown location. Well, from what Izuku had gleaned, it was going to be rescue scenarios, probably in the unforeseen simulation joint. Of course, this was confirmed as they exited the buses outside of the USJ and were greeted by 13 inside the building. However, Izuku instantly noticed that All Might was nowhere to be seen. Aizawa approached 13 and asked them something, and they had a small exchange in which the space hero held up 3 fingers. Izuku was very good at lip reading, but unfortunately 13 wore a helmet and Aizawa's mouth was hidden by his scarf, so he had no real idea what they were saying. 13 gave the students a speech about the usefulness of quirks and rescue, although they could be harmful if misused. It set a decent basis for what the training would be: basic rescue exercises to allow the students to get used to using their abilities in that environment. But suddenly, a dark purple mist began to swirl around in the courtyard of the building, and several people stepped out of it. Sensei, what is that? Ijiro asked as more and more people walked through. Are those more robots, like the entrance exam? No, Eraserhead yelled, putting on his goggles. Everybody stay back. Those are real villains. Izuku could tell that he was serious. This wasn't some exercise that UA had devised to test the students under pressure. These stakes were real. Who would be dumb enough to attack UA? Katsuki chuckled. No. They seem to have somehow disabled the intruder sensors, and they've picked a time and place with very few people, Izuku stated. They're well organized, and smarter than they might seem. Begin evacuation, Aizawa called. 13, try calling UA. There's a chance that they have an electric-type jammer, so Kaminari, try to signal for help as well. Yes, sir, Denki responded, before Aizawa jumped down to fight the villains. Ida, they might try to stop us from leaving, Izuku said. In case we can't get out, you run to UA right now as fast as you can. I'll go now, Tenya confirmed, before turning and running for the exit. I won't allow that. A voice announced as a purple mist rose up and blocked the exit. Pardon the intrusion, young heroes-to-be. We are the League of Villains, and we have come before you today to destroy the symbol of peace. Although he doesn't seem to be here. Maybe his schedule changed. No matter, my job is unchanged. Katsuki and Ijiro both leapt at the villain and struck it with their quirks, and landed before looking back with grins. Not if we finish you first, Katsuki sneered. Betcha didn't see that coming, Ijiro exclaimed, bashing his hardened arms together. Guys, no, Izuku shouted. That was close. The cloud chuckled as he emerged from the smoke unscathed. Although you're only students, you're certainly the cream of the crop. Now, be gone. Portals opened up around and beneath the students, and they all began to fall through. Crap. I can't get away, Izuku realized, then braced for impact. He looked down and realized that he was falling above the collapsed zone along with Minoru Maita and Yuga Aoyama. The blonde fired his stomach laser to show his descent, and Minoru made himself a purple cushion. So at least he didn't need to worry about them. Out of his utility belt, he grabbed a 3-inch metal capsule. With the press of a button it expanded and became a small staff, which he jammed into the cracks of the building on his left, and used to change his momentum. He flipped forward, taking the staff with him, and landed safely. Izuku's suit informed him of 5 large masses surrounding him, and he quickly leapt up and took a defensive stance. "Oh ho, jumpy, aren't ya?" A man covered in crocodile-like scales laughed. "We won't hurt you or anything, promise." "I know," Izuku responded and grinned. "Mind telling me your plan to defeat All Might as a goodbye gift?" "Meh, I'll pass," the villain scoffed. "Hey, be careful," another one. A normal-looking lady with an ornate mask warned. "He may be a kid, but he's a UA student." "Yeah, sure," the croc grinned. The other 3 were standing outside Izuku's field of vision, but he could get an image of them from the info on his HUD. A large man behind him in a leather vest and grungy pants. A man that seemed like a humanoid tree. Yeah, like Groot. And another woman who seemed to be emitting an unhealthily low body temperature. The large man behind Izuku moved to grab him, but the teen was too quick. He hit the man in the stomach with his staff, then put it around his head and swung himself up around to the top of his back. Just in time too, because the croc had just fired 2 scale projectiles that hit the man instead. Apparently they were poison, as he keeled over and began vomiting. Izuku jumped up from the man's back, dodging an assault of tree branches, and hit the croc in the head with his staff as he flipped over him. "You idiots, I said to be careful," the masked woman shouted as she pointed a finger at Izuku. A green liquid shot out of her finger, which Izuku blocked with his staff. But he noticed that the green liquid solidified almost immediately and became very heavy. He noticed more branches reaching for him and more liquid being shot, so he jumped away and tossed the staff at the tree limbs. The branches got tangled with the staff, and the liquid stuck them together in a heavy green cement. By the time the liquid lady was ready to fire again, Izuku had gotten to her and kicked her in the ribs, knocking her head against the building and knocking her out. The tree man was still trying to separate himself from the staff, and the other woman still stood there, unmoving. "Either of you want to tell me about this plan?" Izuku asked. No. The tree man wasn't paying attention, but had become further distressed with the state of his branches and the staff. Suddenly the woman began crying. Her core temperature spiked up immensely, and she turned and ran away. "Hey Midoriya," Minoru shouted as he ran up next to him. What's that guy's deal?" "Just throw your purple balls at him and around him. We don't have to worry about him right now," Izuku said. "I'm more worried about Aizawa-sensei. Eraserhead's a pro. He's got this in the bag," Minoru assured him as he tossed his balls at the tree guy. "I hope. But these guys are too well prepared to just barge in without a way to take him on. If they knew All Might was supposed to be here, they would know about him in 13-2. "I guess so," the short boy conceded. "Yama, come out. It's safer if we stick together," Izuku called. "You found me, mon ami," Yuga said as he leapt out from behind cover. "Magnifique." "What's with the French?" Minoru asked. "Don't question it," Izuku said, walking towards the plaza where Eraserhead was fighting. They crouched down at the edge of the plaza to draw as little attention as possible and watched, horrified, as the large bird-like man crushed Aizawa's arms. This is bad, Midoriya," Minoru gulped. "See change of plans." "No," Izuku shook his head. "If this guy is good enough to take on Eraserhead, then we should take him out now." "Huh?" Minoru whisper shouted. "Are you serious? He took down a pro." "Your quirk is perfect for this, Minta," Izuku said. "If we can immobilize him, then he won't cause any more trouble for the heroes." "Well, I guess. But how could I? I can't perform under pressure." "Yet here you are in UA, non?" Yuga questioned. I couldn't have said it better myself. Izuku nodded with a confident grin. Just start throwing your balls, Minta. That's all I ask. What? Minoru began to protest. But Izuku picked him up and held him over his head, revealing their location. Over here, villains.